Right, so welcome back to another episode of our podcast, and I'm delighted to be joined by the amazing Amanda Arrowsmith. Now, today we're going to be talking about AI, but looking at it from a HR perspective and looking at how it's going to impact or is impacting the world of work. So, Amanda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to join you.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you. So what I usually do is start off by letting people tell us a little bit more about themselves. And obviously you've had an absolutely amazing HR career. So tell us why our listeners should be listening to you.
Oh, gosh. So I think my curiosity and my genuine interest in all things people it will make it interesting, hopefully, for other people to listen to. I don't think I get it right all the time. And I know throughout my career, I haven't got it right all the time. But I think that my interest in that and my experience hopefully will add some value. So I am, I've been working for 33 years, I realise now. And I've done the bulk of that in HR. So from end of 1990s, working for solicitors in a personnel office back then, through working in public sector, private sector, and then for the last kind of 15 years, really focusing on transformation and change. Most recently, I was the Chief People Officer at the CIPD, looking after people and transformation. And I finished there at the end of June as they move into their next phase. And I'm taking the summer off, but I'm an interim CPO who loves transformation and change and he's just endlessly curious, which is why AI is really interesting for me, because I love to find out new things.
Oh, fabulous stuff. Okay, well, let's get straight into it then. So from your vantage point, your perspective, what would you say is the single most exciting thing about AI when it comes to kind of HR and people functions?
I think for me, the most exciting thing, and I don't think we've seen it emerge yet, but I think there's a real use for it, is this potential to personalize. We've seen so much more personalization in our lives. So if you think about how you experience TV, so my husband and I, we have separate Netflix accounts. If I accidentally go into his account, we watch completely different things. It's personalized. If we're listening to one of our players around the house, if it doesn't change to my profile or his profile, I'll go in and it plays me music that's got nothing to do with me because he's been using my profile. So that personalization, and I think we're going to see that in work. What I think is that AI can really help us both in terms of inclusion and performance. So I think that'll be really interesting. I think that's exciting. We've heard lots about the use for repetitive tasks. So potentially using AI to support some of those repetitive tasks. So that'd be good, free people up to do some of the really important people stuff. And then I think if we have the right safeguards, I think it's going to be able to surface some really some interesting insights, which we might not otherwise see. So perhaps patterns in engagement, attrition, skills gaps, but in real time rather than kind of in that lag. So those are for me. So it wasn't single. Typically, I went for 3, sorry. But those are things that I think are the most exciting potentially right now.
And those repetitive tasks when it comes to a HR function, what do you think that we can be using AI to cover in terms of repetitive tasks?
So I think we've been using some of it already in terms of accessing information, sharing, we've been doing mail merge for letters for years, haven't we? But checking those and perhaps personalizing those a bit more, I think could be really useful. There's some interesting organizations who are using AI within their own domains to kind of have an HR chatbot. So instead of having your central services, someone having to phone up and say, where's the expenses policy? Can you tell me the maternity policy? How many days of this have I got left? They can use that within AI. So they can perhaps use a chatbot and do that within AI. So I think those are really useful. Those will be interesting. Changes, updates, perhaps things like our data checks. So are we checking the data that we're holding on people? Can we use AI to support that and to automate that in a different way? So some of those things I think could be useful.
Oh, fabulous. Okay. And if you had to set 3 golden rules for how HR can use AI, what would they be?
So the first one is people first. The IT guys at the CIPD talk about the human inside. So they talk about using AI, but making sure you have your human inside. And I think that's essential for HR because we're still dealing with people. We can use this tool and it'd be really helpful for us, but people first, keep that human inside. The second one is be transparent and explainable. So it's really important if we're using AI in the workplace that we are honest and open about when we're doing that we let people know when AI is in play and actually the understandable reasons for that. So why we're doing it. And then I think there's something around the rules around bias and making sure we're aware of potential bias and continuously auditing. So making sure that we are testing for any unintended discrimination or exclusion, and making sure we're keeping that regular testing and auditing of those. So those three: people first, transparent and explain why, but then we be really aware of bias and audit continuously.
There's loads of things I want to pick up on in those, on what you just said. But first one is probably transparency. So, I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but it's a podcast, so I'm going to ask you. How transparent do you think organisations should be with their use of AI?
So I think where we are at the moment, we're in a position of building trust with AI. So ChatGPT launched the end of 2022, I think it was. And we really started hearing about it in January 23. So we're 2.5 years in. So it's not that long, really. There is the potential for a lot of mistrust and concern because it's a massive change. It's probably the biggest change since email or the iPhone and that kind of in your pocket computers. It's probably the biggest change in that. So if we're not transparent now about how we're using it, where we're using it, and why we're using it, we don't build that trust with our employees and our other people. So that for me is why the transparency is so important right now. We'll probably get to a point in the years to come where the default is that AI is used for certain things. So, you go into your banking app, you get a chatbot. That's not a person, that's AI. We know that, and everyone knows that's happening now. And we'll probably get to that at some point with employment. But in these formative years, being transparent about when we're using it, why we're using it, the fact that we are auditing it and checking it for bias, I think is essential to build that trust. So that's why I would do it now.
No, I agree. And I suppose from my perspective, I think if you've got nothing to hide, and you shouldn't have anything to hide really in business, you'd hope, why wouldn't you just be transparent with your staff, right? Let's just all be adults and talk about what we're doing.
And also, they're probably using things in their day-to-day life. They're probably out there seeing things, losing things. If we have a culture of openness where we can talk about transparently about what we're doing, we might get some of our best ideas from other people. They're not necessarily going to come from the HR team or the IT team. They might come from somewhere else in the organization. So if you have that transparency and you're open, I think that probably allows that more two-way conversation, allows people to perhaps try things in a safe place. I don't know. We'll think about it that way.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you talked about bias as well. So I've been reading People Management magazine dutifully, and there was a story in there around a potential case against Workday around bias and discrimination in recruitment with them using AI. You got any particular thoughts on how we can try and stop or limit bias when it comes to AI in those sorts of circumstances?
So I think the first thing is that the continuous auditing. So let's check it. I don't think bias in AI is anything new. So I think if you think about the applicant tracking systems that have been using some form of AI to discount CVs, that's been happening for years. There was a study in Australia, which is the best empirical study of its kind, where they did over 10,000 applications for jobs with different sounding names. And it was clear that if you had a Western Australian sounding name, you got interviewed for the job. If you had an Asian or an Aboriginal sounding name, you were less likely, even if you had the same experience and the same. Now that's people, that's not just AI. The challenge we have is AI is trained by people. So there's been some interesting stuff at the moment about women in AI and how women aren't represented in AI. And if you ask it a question, it'll come up with men, or if you ask it something, it's coming from a very male point of view, because AI is being trained by predominantly men. The way I think we can support that internally and support that as we use it in organizations is twofold. One, let's get involved in training the AI. Let's make sure we're in those spaces. Let's make sure we've got diversity in those spaces, so we're calling out that bias at the time it happens and therefore fixing it. Two, let's not pretend the bias isn't there. Bias is there in everything we do, and replacing a human with a computer isn't going to take that bias away. Humans are biased. Computers are biased because they're built by humans. So that's not going to take away. So we need to face into that, be honest with it. I think this is where the human inside comes, though. We need to make sure we're checking. We need to make sure it passes the sniff test. If something doesn't feel right, if it feels like there's bias, then make sure we're getting in that and checking that. And that can be challenging because that means we have to kind of sometimes confront our own biases. And that's not a comfortable place to be, is it? That's not, you get to a certain point, that's not comfortable. But the better we get at it, the better these tools will become for us. But we need to not ignore it and face into it. I don't think it's not a reason not to use the tools, but it's one of those things. It's the safety warning that it comes with. Use it at risk. Use it, use it knowing these things.
And how you use it, right? If we kind of leave it to its own devices, knowing that there are biases, then that's an issue.
Yeah, completely. The Workday one's really interesting because, like I say, that's not new. That bias in recruitment has been there forever, but the bias in recruitment, whilst the computers might be and the AI might be taking people out of processes because of certain things, that bias has been there because of lots of different things. And we've tried loads of things as organizations for years, haven't we? So we've done blind CVs, we've done removing dates from things, we've taken qualifications out, we've done loads of things, and there's still bias because we are humans and we like people that are like us. We naturally go for people that reminds us or that we have that affinity with. Where the AI may help is with removing some of that initial bias, but if it's built by a certain group of people, it's going to continue to have that.
I love the phrase sniff test. I don't know why.
I don't know if it's a common thing anymore. I don't know if it's like an old phase, but it's the milk, isn't it? If the milk doesn't pass the sniff test, you don't put it in your tea.
I mean, I'm all for the test. It saved me many a time. Alrighty, so we've kind of talked about this a little bit already, but in the next 5 years, how do you think AI will be able to change the way that we do things in HR?
Right. What was I thinking? So I think there's something around skills intelligence. So I think there's some really interesting stuff around using AI to identify in strategic workforce planning. So using it to identify kind of what the workforce shifts might be, thinking about that precision you need, what the skills are that you need. So thinking about how you can build that intelligence of your workforce. So back in the day, I remember having knowledge management platforms or trying to build a knowledge platform, probably with a database that everyone had to go in and put their own information in. I think AI will speed that up, will enable that more, that you'll be able to interrogate, so we're going to go through this transformation and change, or we're bringing in this new product, what sort of skills might we need to use for that? And you can use the large language models and the agents in that to help and bring this forward. So I think that skills intelligence stuff will be interesting, and it'll help give us more precision and more in data to help around that. I think recruitment could be faster and more transparent, and we're already seeing the candidate experience improve through the human and AI collaboration. So through using agents effectively, people aren't just getting a blanket, I'm sorry, your CV wasn't right this time. Well, what you're starting to see, and I saw something that was really interesting, is there is an AI of a person, now not sacking people, but could be the same, and I think we're probably going to talk about that, but there is an AI of a person saying, we received your CV, these are the reasons you weren't taken forward, this is what we would suggest you do going forward. So it's taking someone's CV, recognizing perhaps they don't meet the things for that job, but instead of sending a blanket back, we're not progressing you at this time, or worse, ghosting them, they're getting a very human feeling AI avatar saying, thanks for sending your CV. These are the reasons that we didn't take you forward at this stage. This is what we're looking for, and this is what you might want to do going forward. And I think that candidate experience is going to be much better as a result. Because as well as I do, we see it on LinkedIn and other places all the time. There are hundreds and hundreds of people applying for every job. A recruiter will do their best to get back to, but they may not be able to. So if you can use those tools to make that more human, to work with people, I think that's potentially a really positive thing. Potentially some policy compliance might be interesting around AI. So I think we'll move from more reactive to proactive. So using that AI to make sure we're supporting that. And then I think the biggest thing for me over the next 5 years is, we've been saying it for a while anyway, HR business partners need to have more data literacy anyway. If you're working in HR, you need to have more data literacy. The analytics side has been coming through anyway. That's how we really add value to the business. That's just going to be even more important with AI. So I think embrace it, don't be afraid of it, but understand that data literacy and access the tools available. If you're a CIPD member, there is a free AI course on the website, so you can access those courses. There's loads of other courses out there. So I think, there's always webinars being touted on LinkedIn and other places. I think it's important that people be upfront about what they don't know and be open to learning. That curious side is going to be key.
Oh, fabulous stuff. And you started to talk about something that I do want to talk about in terms of red flags. So again, recent case where we've got a company who uses a pre-recorded video to lay people off because they want to use a bit more AI. I know, red flag, right? If I had a flag, I'd be waving it. Like how as HR professionals can we try and manage those things that are red flags? I mean, to be honest, I would hope that most people in HR would, advise that that's not something that people should be doing. But how do we manage people kind of misusing AI, I guess, in that way?
So could you imagine? So using AI to replace those meaningful human interactions that had high impact moments, I don't know, redundancies, grievances, or disciplinary actions. That to me, that it makes me physically kind of, you can see it just hackles up. Scary. I think it comes back to that transparency. So if you then deploy that AI without consent or disclosure, that's a real issue. We are, and we will continue to be, the champions of humans within the organizations. It's in the name. Be it human resources, human capital, people and change, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be that, and we need to continue to do that. And this comes back to the human inside. AI is a tool, like Excel is a tool. It's great that we use it, but it can't replace us. And if we want our people to give us the best of them, then we need to give them the best of us. And that means turning up, being in person, having those hard conversations. I mean, I saw the TikTok of the girl who was videoing the woman telling her that she'd lost her job, and her email and everything was her access was being turned off immediately. And I know it's very American way, and I get that work at will state, but it was just, if I'd known which company it was, and it was a company that was a consumer goods company, I would no longer buy from that company. Because that's the other thing. There's that PR impact. There's a real risk, isn't there? You will have seen this, and we want to use AI. What for and why? And it's that transparency. Can you explain it? Can you say why? So yeah, we've just got to keep championing. We've got to keep explaining. These are people we're dealing with, not widgets. And if we want to keep the heart and soul of our organizations, we need to support our people, but also it's going to get out there. You start doing that, people are going to tell you. You're going to hear which companies it is. It's going to impact your PR. It's not going to go down well.
I mean, we're talking about it now, right? And
yeah.
And not in a positive way, but hopefully the company will learn from it, fingers crossed. In terms of governance of kind of using AI tools, I mean, from a very kind of purist perspective, AI is a piece of technology. Should it be that IT are the people who are the guardians of AI governance, or do you think that's a joint responsibility with IT and HR or others in organisations?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. So I think IT are necessarily leading on AI because it is a technology, and there are so many questions about what data you can put in, what happens to that data, who owns what data you put in, what's the safety and security within your organization. So I think necessarily IT need to be up there, but I think it's a joint task force. So I think it's your HR people coming from a human point of view. I think it's IT for your technological integrity and technology within there. Depending on the size of your organization will depend on what else you have in there. But I think you need to have your legal people in there for compliance. There's the European rules around AI that are coming in. It's likely that the UK will replicate those rules. It's really important people are using it, within those rules and within that governance. And that then puts us then in risk and ethics. So who's managing your risk and ethics? Does it sit in have you got a governance structure? Have you got a legal structure? I'm not quite sure, depending on your organization, will depend on those. So I don't think it's one team. I think it's a joint governance responsibility. But right now, emerging tech, I think IT need to be leading on implementation and potential adoption, with HR coming in really strongly about ethics, because at the end of the day, it's people that use AI.
I totally agree. I feel like I'm a complete geek, so I'm going to make it very geeky. I feel like IT get to be Captain America, and then the rest of us are kind of choose a Marvel character who supports your face.
No, I am totally in. So I'm so glad that you went Marvel, not DC for starters,
Yay!
because that would have been hard for me. But no, I'm totally in. I think there's something about Avengers assembling for these sorts of things, and
Yeah.
it is life changing, and there is something about bringing those different skills and views together. And if you can get comfortable with having those different skills and views in a room, you're only going to do better. Oh my god, my English. Sorry, you're only going to find a better way of implementing that in your organization, because you bring that diversity of view, diversity of viewpoint, but also understanding of what's going to take, for an IT person, the latest AI agent, so agentic AI, may be the thing that turns them on. Whereas for an HR person, it may be, actually, this can be a coach and a mentor, and we can set this up, and this can help this person with this product, and they can formulate their questions for something they're challenged with before they go into that conversation, before they have that conversation, because they've got someone they feel is a private conversation. I mean, that's another question we've heard, haven't we, that OpenAI have said that none of your conversations are private, and they are Googleable, if Googleable is a word, but there is something around that. So I think but yeah, if you bring those different things together, I like the Avengers analogy. I think that's top.
Who's your favorite Marvel character?
I'm Natasha Romanoff, obviously.
Oh, obviously. Why?
Because she is
I'm
and
more of
also
a
I think if she worked somewhere, she would be a CPO. She's got the driest sense of humor, but she gets stuff done.
love that. More of a Scarlet Witch kind of girl myself.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Pre the book of whatever it was.
Well, yeah, but she kind of gets better, doesn't she, in the comics? I'm sure she comes back and she's not as bad. I can't remember.
So the comics are, I think the really interesting thing is what Marvel had to do necessarily is commercialize and make but the stuff that's more comic book realistic, you kind of go, oh no, that's a great character. So
Yeah.
you look at some of the things that come in, like they're not dark enough, like Kane in the time traveler one that was on
Kang the Conqueror?
Yes. So Kane was nowhere near as evil as they are in the comic books. So I think that's a difference there. But yeah, Scarlet Witch is a fantastic character.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm Agatha. I don't know. I know she's not
That's
an Avenger, but maybe I'm Agatha at the end of the day. Yeah.
Good. I like her a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, we could team up.
Perfect.
You see us at the next CIPD conference, all like cosplayed up.
Oh, Comic Con and CIPD.
Woo! Yeah, see, you are the person to suggest that to. I'll leave that to you. Oh, wait. Now I've got to be grown up again. And let me.
Okay, yeah.
Some questions.
Have you used AI to make yourself into a Marvel character yet, though?
Oh, do you know what? I made myself into a Simpsons character.
Nice.
But not a Marvel character. Why? Have you done it?
I haven't. I just realized that I've made my dog into one, obviously, because that's the things I do. I also made my dog into, I asked AI to create pictures of my dog at work. And I've got my dog in like goggles and a lab coat, a hard hat and a clipboard and all those sorts of things. But I may be going on to one of the many AI platforms afterwards and putting myself as, Agatha Harkness, potentially.
I'm expecting an email when we go. All right, so AI questions. We talked about it a little bit in terms of kind of entry level roles, and I guess it's something that I'm a little bit nervous about with HR, with AI and HR. I love technology and all the great things that it can do for us, but I do worry about if we erode the things that our entry level people do, that we're kind of getting rid of an opportunity to learn. So what I mean by that is, when I started in HR 20 years ago, one of the things that I did was, some of the tedious stuff, right? Like we do all of the admin stuff, we learn all of the basics. And whilst at the time it feels tedious, actually it's so important because it's the foundation of everything that we do. If we start using AI to automate some of that stuff, I feel like that takes away from some of that opportunity to learn. But what do you think? And if you do agree, how can we kind of balance that out so that we're still using a tool to make things more efficient, but also allowing people to learn in a kind of structured way?
So I think this is the balance of the human inside. So
Mm.
let's take a new starter or onboarding. Traditionally, you would somebody would write that letter. Somebody might pull together the pack to help them on board. Someone would check the references. Someone would do the medical check. Someone would get them set up on the system, and someone would spend all the time doing that.
Mm.
All of that still needs to happen, but a tool can be used to do the administration, and therefore the person's role becomes checking that it's working, checking that the relationship with the individual is connected. The role becomes that assurance and that auditing and monitoring to make sure it's done. You still need to understand the law. So if you're going to have someone, maternity leave is a really good example. I am extremely concerned sometimes with some of the young people that come into HR who don't know what's happening with maternity leave. And there's been a shift on that, but that's been a shift anyway. So when you know, I'm a bit older than you, but when we started in HR, if we need to calculate maternity, we had one of those wheels where you used to have to go and show the months and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
We didn't have a nice online tool that automatically told us. That's already shifted. That's already changed. But you're still going to have that conversation. You're still going to have, they know you don't need to let us know until this date officially. You're going to get a MAP B1, but you're not going to get it till this date. So don't worry about that. This is what we'd like to know. Have a think about this. If you've got any questions, let's talk about your personal circumstances. So you're still going to have all of those things and have those opportunities. You just won't have someone writing the letter themselves and having to actually do that. You could, and I'm sure there will be examples, and it will fall down and it will end up in tribunal, put a robot in to do all of that work, but you'll lose that human bit. So that then you then don't have a relationship with your workers. You don't have engaged and motivated and purpose-driven workers. What you have is people accessing systems. And that might work in some places, and that might be the case. I'm also concerned about those entry-level roles, because with this democratization of knowledge and with this access to knowledge, there's a real risk that it's not even earning your stripes, because I don't think that's important, but understanding those basics and building that foundation of practice in HR, I believe, is essential for a future career in HR, because we understand it, we've done it, and we need to support that. We just need to shift our expectations. So it's not, you know, we moved away from paper files, didn't we? Everything's moved electronic. We don't have to have those massive folders and spend Friday afternoons filing anymore. So we've already changed. It's just adapting to that change and finding ways to allow people the space. It's quite exciting because it might allow some of those people earlier in their careers to really focus in different areas in a bit more depth, because they're not bogged down with 160 pay review letters. They are actually finding other ways of doing it. So it could free up. What we need to do is make sure we don't remove that route and that entry route. Qualifications are going to have to change. I know that CIPD were looking at it. They're going to have to think about those qualifications and how that works. Is level 3 still relevant in the way that it is if AI is going to come in and replace all of that? So that's going to have to catch up. How do we make sure that people, you know, from a slight tangent, how are we making sure that the people we're interviewing haven't done everything on AI and they are real people? I don't have a problem with someone using AI for an application form. I don't have a problem with someone using AI for a cover letter, as long as they've put the human inside and they can back it up. So I think there's all that test and all that work. It's just going to change how we do it. And perhaps those early career roles become more data and insights driven.
I feel like we've run out of time.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
I know. No. You don't need to be sorry at all. I'm just gutted because I'm really enjoying the conversation. We've made it like grown up and had a bit of Marvel. Like perfect for me.
It's like my best life.
I know, I love it. If people want to borrow your brain, how can they get hold of you?
Find me on LinkedIn. I am Amanda Arrowsmith, FCIPD. There is another Amanda Arrowsmith. She's an academic. She's amazing. She's not me, but I look like this. And so you will find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. I'm AJ Arrowsmith, and I am HR change expert on TikTok. But I'm dabbling in TikTok because I'm new to it.
Tell me about your
TikTok. You know what? I've made a decision they're going to talk about you anyway, so you might as well put on a show. So you will see my face on some of these platforms at some point.
That's my motto for life, right? You're going to talk about me, then let me put on a show for you, right?
Exactly.
Tell me more about your TikTok.
Oh, it isn't there yet. It's just I've started dabbling. I've been a lurker for years. I was a COVID TikToker. So I joined TikTok during COVID, when we couldn't go anywhere, we needed interaction and see people. So I've been a lurker for years. I use it quite a lot for my doctorate studies. So there's some really good PhD stuff on there and some fantastic information around that. But also just sometimes that mindless scrolling of just going, oh, I need to know what Alex Earle is wearing this week. I need to know what is happening in the NFL and who's marrying who and those sorts of things. And sometimes I find it really useful for that.
Who's Alex Earle? I don't know who that is. Am I not trending?
Oh. She's no, see, I see her because she's the girlfriend of an American football player. And my husband coaches American football, so we watch a lot of American football in our house, and so that's why. So that all of our that's the other thing that's fascinating, isn't it? Our algorithms are all different. Comes back to personalization.
Well, unless you start going down a bit of a rabbit hole. I started looking at a certain type of thing and then I went down a rabbit hole.
Oh no, careful. Yeah.
Well, but I've learned if I save videos of things that I like, if I've messed up my algorithm, if I go back and look at the save videos, then it fixes it.
Yeah, definitely. We still need that whole is it safe for work? Should you Google this at work? Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. But I suppose that's the beauty of being an independent consultant. Right, thank you so much for your time. I absolutely love having you on here. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to invite you back again so we can do it again.
Oh, yeah. You know me. I love good chat.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, there'll be new... We do need to talk about the Marvels because I personally loved it, but it got a lot of pushback.
Oh, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it either.
But if we'd like to talk about misogyny in Marvel, then I'll be up for that one.
Oh, bless you. Okay, so thank you so much for your time. And what we'll do is we'll arrange another chat and we'll do this again.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.